Hey everyone, you're listening to another episode of Tu Tia Bruja. So today's episode is special. You got two tias for the price of one. That's right. I have Tía Maria back. Thank you so much for being back on the show.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm so exciting to and happy to come back. I love you. I love your audience. You guys are great. So, yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Oh, I love you too. I just feel like our souls connect, and I love that we both really love being in that role of a tia. There's been like a lack of representation in witchy elders, especially of the Latin or Latinx, whichever term people prefer.
Right.
It's been a lot of white folk, and I think that it's cool to have people who are genuinely trying to get correct information and guide people, whether how small or large one decides to make their practice. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. We definitely need to bring our voice into the conversation for sure.
Yeah, and it's funny, I just recorded an episode, and I remember when I was back on your episode a while back ago of your show, we talked about how, sometimes when you take the decision to be on this path, it does alienate people around you because not everyone, wants to be in touch with customs of the ancestors or really try to heal that ancestral trauma or, just like what have you. And I think that that can be a very like difficult space for some people, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it is very difficult, especially when you're coming from a very traditional, colonized tradition, when your tradition's been colonized and you're taken away from your regular tradition your ancestors were used to, and now your parents, your grandparents are either, I mean, for me, for my family, we're very traditional Christians, so it was very difficult and frowned upon to even think about or even discuss about ancestors. Like, you don't even talk about anyone who's passed away after they've been buried, right? Because that's just too much. But it puts you in a difficult situation, but that just means that you're just a stronger person in the family to take on that challenge. And I'm here for that. I'm going to support anyone who does.
And what I think is so wild is because like our ancestors were so big on using like plants and to heal ourselves and whatnot. And at least, and in most parts of the world too, but I guess especially here in the United States, John D. Rockefeller. I'm on this whole like beef with John D. Rockefeller, even though he's been dead for a long time. But like, I'm really pissed off at him because he basically made it so medicine was no longer on a like holistic and plant-based, like scale because before, what do you think an apothecary did? Like they took plants and they mushed them down in other things and gave it to you and, that's how you cured yourself, but medicine started to become more like petroleum based and
Yeah.
medicine kind of changed and I think that it's a big thing to in my opinion to recognize like I think Cuba has a very amazing model of what their like medicine is because I think they do combine like the holistic and medicinal properties of plants in addition to just like, other types of medicine because other types of medicine work. Like I'm not going to be here and like, oh, deny science because don't. But
Right.
Obviously you have to, magic is the space in between where science, I think, doesn't always work. But I think it's important to realize that like the way that we practice things, they've changed for reasons because it doesn't benefit people if you're able to cure yourself with plants,
Exactly. Exactly. It's so true. And, when I was in nursing school, I had a nursing mentor who once said, Maria, the first nurses were witches. We were the first that people came to us for ailments, and we would bring up the herbs, like you said, and teas and poultices and, creams. Like, that's how it all started. And, science is an amazing thing. And I think together, our traditions together with science would make us even more powerful. But like you said, that doesn't put the money in the pockets of the big pharma companies. So there has to be a balance somewhere. And I would say for people as a patient, since I'm a nurse and I advocate for patients, I think we should definitely be able to voice that opinion and, say I want a second opinion or say, I'm going to do this alternative treatment, whatever that is, as well as listen to my doctors and whatnot. Like there has to be a balance. I mean, it was put here for a reason. We were given science, we were given our traditions for a reason.
One of the things that I just find amazing, and you see it mostly in, the communities of people of color, black and brown, witches and spiritual folk, as well as other like marginalized communities that seen a lot of oppressing and damaging things. You see a lot of mediums. And I think that that's because, when you've seen a lot of levels of like sadness, things that maybe not all of humanity sees, it does open your eyes and your perspective to a lot of different things. And my mom is someone who has the gift. She's a medium, and
Mm.
the things that she can like just say and do, and the things that have happened to her, like I think we talked about it before. She's someone who, when someone typically dies, she sees them 24 hours, either kind of within 24 hours, either right before or right after. Typically soon after, someone will be like, "Oh, by the way, did you know X person died?" And it's happened so many times now. And I'm just like, and my mom is not someone to like lie. So I'm just like, this is very interesting. And she's also had a lot of like weird supernatural experiences.
Mhm.
Are you someone who has sort of that gift, or anyone in your family possess that?
So I wouldn't say I call myself a medium, but I would definitely say that I'm always the person who knows when someone has passed or is going to pass. Like for example, that those phone calls in the middle of the night to let you know that someone in the family has passed. I would always be the only person awake at that time, like 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 in the morning, and the phone rings, and all of a sudden, I'm the only one that's awake. So I answer it, and it's obviously someone in the family has passed away. For example, just 2 weeks ago, I was just randomly thinking of my cousins that I haven't spoken to in a long time, like years. We haven't seen each other, but we grew up together as little girls, and I was just happened to cross my mind. And 2 days later, we get a message from the family member that she had passed away. So, I do have those moments like that, but and sometimes my grandparents come to me in dreams who have passed away. But when it comes to for other people, I haven't, but I definitely have that that door, that or that phone, that line up there to those who have passed away in my family and my ancestors, where they just, if they want to reach out, they just like tap right into me. I'm like, oh, geez, you know?
Well, because I was going to say, because I just remembered, you also recalled when I can't remember if it was your sister, your friend, was going to have twins, right?
Yeah, my god sister. Yep, I predicted her twins. I can't believe it. They're 20 now, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
Well,
crazy.
see, give yourself more credit, because I feel like, psychic or medium abilities, it can be one or the other, because I feel like it can just be that intuition to know when things are going to happen,
Mhm.
or you could also have the ability of like kind of that necromancy, or kind of just foreshadowing like death. It's weird because I think my mom possesses both. I think you might possess a little bit of both as well, but I don't know. I
Mhm.
also think that these gifts that we have, we were never necessarily taught to strengthen them.
Yeah.
So even if we possess them, we doubt
Mhm.
ourselves. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I definitely like when after I, predict my sister's twins, I immediately like put it away and I doubted myself, but then it happened and I'm like, but then like 2 years ago when my other sister was pregnant, the first step I took into her new apartment, that voice, it was like a voice in my ear. She's pregnant. Like a couple days after, she sends me her pregnancy test and photo. But yeah, we were taught to strengthen those. We weren't raised to train to be able to turn it on and off and control our inner powers. But I think that's the positive, is that we have the ability to reach out and connect with other people like you and I. So that's the blessing in it, I see.
And I think it's the ability to encourage each other, to when, hey, I had this experience with like a medium that you might find positive as well in your life. And also being able to recognize that, like, sometimes a medium doesn't work with this particular individual, but that shouldn't discourage someone from maybe trying to find someone else who might be a better fit. You've actually never had
Mhm.
an experience with a medium, not one on one, that is, but like you've been to like medium dinners and stuff like that, more of like a larger space. Do you mind kind of talking about that experience and what it was like?
Yeah, so it was amazing. So it was one, like I said, I always listen to that voice, that inner voice that tells me to do something. And I was one day at work, and one of my best friends also works with me. I just happened to find an ad for a dinner at my local restaurant, and a medium was going to be holding an event there that same night. And I reached out to her. I'm like, hey, you want to go to, have dinner and drinks and maybe catch a reading for fun? Like, I really just, I felt drawn to it. So we went. The dinner was great, and everyone had dinner. She started. I don't even remember her name anymore. I wish I do. Wish I could remember, but she started reading the room. She pretty much goes to wherever in the room where she's drawn to by her guides. And then it came to the point in the night where she was like, well, does anyone have any questions? She was going table to table. So she got to our table, and I guess the other people on our table were too afraid to ask. So I was just like, I'll ask. I didn't really have a question in particular, but I was like, well, can you tell me something about, what do you see from in my career? Is there anything that I should know? So she obviously had never met me before or anything like that. And she was like, why do I see a large like church, like cathedral church? And I see more than one of those. And I immediately just looked over at my friend. I was like, holy shit. So for those that don't know, I am also an interfaith ordained minister. And one of my side gigs, I call it, is that I perform wedding ceremonies for people, whether it's interfaith or whatever, a religion, spiritual ceremony that they want. So I was like, yeah, and before that dinner, I was talking to my friend in the car on the way to the restaurant. I was like, I think I want to make this like a real actual business. She's like, yeah, you should look into it. And so I said, yeah, I know the thing about churches. I told her, and she was like, do you do anything in them? I'm like, so I told her that I was a minister. She's like, oh, she's like, I see you're doing it more on a grander scale. She's like, you're not just doing it in like small, tiny chapels, but you're going to be getting a lot more clients this year. And she was not wrong. After that, I started booking. I booked so many clients, and I booked my first actual wedding in a Christian church, where normally Christian churches don't like to bring in other pastors that don't belong to their church. But this one bride had actually worked for that church in Philadelphia, and she asked the pastor there, she was like, I'm not really baptized in that religion, but she did work for the church, but I would like to have my ceremony here. So he was like, well, because whatever rules that they had in their church, I can't perform the ceremony, but I will allow you to bring someone else and use our church for the ceremony. And it was, the most beautiful in this huge cathedral. And it was amazing. And it felt so good. And when I was up there, I felt like I had arrived. I was like, this is what I was meant to do for people. Bring together couples, whoever they are, in love, and to see the joy in their families' faces. It was amazing. So she was really right on the money. And I was like hooked. After that, I'm like, I need to start seeing more mediums. But yeah, that was my first medium dinner. And after that, I did another one. It wasn't that great for me. So I think if people want to like think about going to a medium individually, like you might have to like go to see who you may connect with, because not everyone connects the same with each other. But it was great for my other friend. Like she had her brother came through. Who had just passed away, and it was really good for her to have closure and hear that, the message that he had for her. So yeah, I think mediums, uh, they have an amazing gift. It's amazing.
I agree. It's funny, Metzgley Alexandria Cantor is such a gifted medium, and it's funny, they're working on a tarot deck based on animal spirits and plant spirits, but they are just able to communicate with so many different things beyond just the physical realm. So I'd gone through a time where I was like really going through it, and I reached out to them, and it's funny because like one thing I want to suggest to people is to go in with an open mind. I think that with any type of medium experience, that's the most important thing. Try to have, something specific. Like if you're trying to make contact with someone specifically, maybe like a sign or like a message or something that like you have in mind, because sometimes people are right on the money and they, have all the answers, but I think sometimes
Mhm.
it can be very like generalized. And I think that it's also important to realize that like in this industry, not everyone is as authentic as they seem.
Right.
And I think that that's important you should go in with a little bit of skepticism, but you should also be very open to what could happen.
Exactly.
And so when I had my appointment with Metzgley, it was really cool because I was more so asking about myself, like, am I on the right path? Am I on this? Am I on that? This, that. And I came out so much better just with that general idea because, well, one, I think the idea of like what is and isn't our path is such a colonized idea. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
the fact that we're even surviving like years of colonial oppression and damage that has been done and hurt. And I think that in itself is miraculous. So it's like that's why we're magic because, our ancestors had to go through all of these things to survive. And like the fact that we exist is already a beautiful and magical thing.
Absolutely.
So it's just about being open and seeing like what works out because sometimes you try something and it leads you to something else. And I think it's important to realize that like every step of our journey leads us closer to where we're supposed to end up. In the long run, it really helps make you a better person because I think we forget like we are spiritual beings having a human experience, not the other way around.
Yes, exactly.
It's very easy to get caught up in the human parts of the experience and get really like stuck in like this is forever and this is permanent. It's like, nah, we will live again. But we need
Mhm.
to like, get our house in order and try, I think, to figure out stuff in this life. And so that was really like cathartic and helpful. And then it was funny because like in that session, the very last thing that I asked just on a whim because I was like, I wonder if I can get through to my grandma, eres una bruja? Like, were you a witch? And she was like, no. And not only did she say
Aw.
no, but she said no. And she did this thing that she would always do when she was alive, which was like wagging her finger no, like, like no. And it was just so amusing to me because Metzger had no way of knowing that. And then the icing on the cake for me was my grandmother was someone, and it's funny because a lot of my family is still like that to this day. Is like, and I think not even just my family. I think that that's like a standard in like Latin or Latinx like culture to have such an emphasis on weight. But then we
Mhm.
like force you to eat, and that's like a whole
Yeah,
nother conversation.
yeah. Mhm. Yeah.
It's relevant because right now I'm not working out as much as I should, and I'm probably eating foods that are not ideal for me. They were like, oh, and just one last thing your grandma wants me to pass on to you is that stop eating late at night. And I do have the habit. I do tend to like start my day later sometimes, or even if I do like wake up early, I don't eat first thing. So I get hungry later at night. So I was like, God damn it, abuela.
Leave it up to abuela. Abuela told the truth.
It was just so funny. And for me, that made it really real. And I think that, like I said, go in um expecting whatever. I personally think that it's better to, with a medium, like don't try and find someone who's a little bit more distanced, if you're going to be paying for the service, and, try and ask something that is going to be a little bit more of an answer for you, that
Mhm.
maybe the answer isn't necessarily like somewhere that can be lurked on social media. And that isn't to like, make anybody like, oh, it's
Right.
not real. But like that, there are people who are inauthentic with this type of stuff, and there are people who truly have a gift. So
Yeah.
it's important to keep that in mind. One thing I want to recommend to you if you haven't seen it already, Surviving Death. Have you seen it?
People have been telling me to watch it. I really do need to find time to sit down and watch it because I've heard it's amazing.
Please do, because you learn so much. There are two episodes focused on mediumship, which was really even informative to me because and I mean the whole series as a whole is amazing. There's an episode based on like near death experiences, which I mean there was a
Mm.
couple of different instances in there that were just so, in my opinion, convincing. Because like we were saying earlier, like science and magic, and I feel like magic is sort of sometimes the things that like science can't explain because we just don't
Mhm.
have the tools. But the two episodes on mediumship were just fascinating. And one of the types of mediumship that they covered that I had never heard of before is called physical mediumship. Are you familiar
Mm.
with that?
No, do tell. What is that?
So physical mediumship is cool because there's several different types. And physical mediumship refers to the type of mediumship where typically you need like a group of 5 or 10. It can be 5, ideally, more. And all of you kind of at like some point have to sing like a song or a hymn or something like that to kind of like elevate this, like the vibrations a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And so once that sort of happens, there's one person who is essentially like the leader, the messenger, I guess would be the best way to refer to them.
Mm.
They're typically strapped down and they are the ones who conduct the messages from the other side. Your group and like essentially a group on the spirit realm work together to send messages back and forth, and that person works as essentially the telephone. So the spirits talk through them. There's ectoplasm that's released, and it just
Mm.
seems like a very interesting thing. The thing with that is like you have to commit to basically meeting with your group on a very regular basis. Typically, like once a week is recommended, and I just can't commit to that. For the
No.
X remaining of years, that's a lot.
That's a major commitment. That's big, but it's very interesting. I like that idea. Um, it, how it's, I mean, it encourages that camaraderie between the people and building that relationship because it strengthens that connection with your other person, those heartstrings. Once they're connected, it's up to you to either if you want to cut them or not. But if you're committing to that and you actually stick to that commitment, it becomes strengthened and it can be very powerful, a very powerful connection and power that they can create together. So that's really cool. I like that. But I agree with you. I'm not sure I have the time to commit to that. But power to the people who really do, because wow, that is super, super awesome. I mean, really cool. That reminds me of like one of the things that I would like to do one day is past life regression. Have you done that?
No, I haven't. I too really want to try it.
Yeah, it sounds really cool because I feel like I've been around the world. Like, I don't know if I told you, like, I have this connection with the Mexican culture that I'm just so drawn to it and I just love it so much. I mean, just drawn to it so much and I love it so much. I mean, not just the music and the culture and the food. Oh my god, the food. But I mean, I'm always drawn to it, and it's so funny too because my grandfather, who passed away a long time ago, I call him like the only Puerto Rican cholo I know because he dressed like that. He's always working on cars. He's got the tattoos, and it was like Vicente Fernandez on all the time. And I'm like, I kind of grew up a little bit confused as a kid. I'm like, are we Puerto Rican or are we Mexican? What's going on here? So I always felt like maybe it was, some kind of ancestor, or maybe I was from there at some point in my past life. Like you never know. But yeah, that's something I would love to. I always really want to know if I was a male sometime in the past. That would be really cool to know.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. It's funny how different things in our life like we connect to where you're like, why am I so fascinated with this? And sometimes
Hmm.
it is genuinely like maybe we like it, but maybe there's something more. I'm like that when I was younger, like I would say even maybe like not necessarily too young, but way younger than I maybe should have. I had a really big obsession with punk rock and a lot of the musicians of that time period of like the, 70s, like late 70s and kind of the
Hmm.
music they were making and even post-punk stuff in like a way that I always thought was kind of bizarre. And as I got older, like that didn't go away. And I particularly, I think, started to become very fascinated with the 80s and the 90s and the way that HIV and AIDS kind of happened in this country. And I've had 2 tarot readings now, like past life readings. So I've done past life readings, but I haven't done like a full on like past life regression or like
Hmm.
meditation or anything like that to really like get in touch with my past lives. So I don't know. But 2 people now have told me that I was someone who might have died during that time period. Like I was a young, like gay man. And
Mm.
I wonder if there's, how much truth there is in that. I think it's interesting that 2 people now have said it who like didn't have a connection to each other. But I could also see that because I think sometimes I have a lot of solar energy that is like, and I wonder if maybe that is because I feel like I have something to, like, I have to figure it out in this one because I didn't get the chance last time.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a topic that I really love. Also, I hope that in a past life that I might have been, oh my god, why am I blank? He doesn't want me to say his name probably. He wrote fucking Oscar Wilde. Why did it take so long? Oscar Wilde. It's funny, my best friend and I were joking about this, and I was like, I don't even have to have been like, him. I would settle for being his tailor and just making sure he would have looked dope as shit, like,
Yeah.
because I've always connected with Oscar Wilde in such a way that I, like, my first car, I named Dorian Gray because it was like this weird, like, tan silvery color. It was strange. And then when I was in Ireland, in Dublin specifically, which was his birthplace, I stayed at a hotel which was across the street from where his birthplace was.
Mm.
And it was on the day that the gay marriage referendum passed, which, like, if you don't know about Oscar Wilde, he was incarcerated for, like, being a homosexual.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just thought that that was really strange. And then, like, the cherry on top that really maybe there is a connection here is when I was in Paris, I ended up staying at this really god awful hotel, and it was around the corner from where his, like, final resting place was. And I didn't know that before. I ended up just, like, staying at this really crummy hotel that was kind of cheap because I had to just book something very quickly, and it just happened to be there. And it's also like the cemetery where Edith Piaf and Jim Morrison are buried at, and
Mm.
Chopin and George Miles. I know all these because I specifically went looking for them. But this is all to say that, like, I don't know, sometimes when weird things like that keep popping up, it seems like there's something more there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's so interesting because the day that same-sex marriage became legal in the country, like on a federal level, that was when I became ordained as a minister to perform weddings because I was like, that's the one thing that was preventing me from doing it was that, there were limitations on people getting married. And as soon as it became legal, I was like, bring on the fabulous weddings, girl. I was like, I'm doing it now. It's so funny that, and now we're connected, you and I, and you have that. And it's just so interesting. It's so funny. But it's so funny you mentioned that because today my nephew, he's only 2 and he's so incredibly smart. Like I can't believe how advanced he is. And I just looked at him today and I just said, Albert Einstein, is that you and my nephew? Like I really like my nephew's just like I just like Sarah. He's like, what are you talking about, Titi? Like, but it's just so I'm like, I really thought I'm like, this probably I'm like, is that Einstein and my nephew right now? Like, are you reincarnated right now? But yeah, it's really something I would love to do. I need definitely to find someone good. So if anyone's listening that has good recommendations, let your Tia know. For real.
Also, I'm really glad that you mentioned Albert Einstein. And I read this, and fucking Albert Einstein was woke as fuck before any of us.
Oh hell yeah.
He also was of marginalized folk, but he was someone who basically insisted on only speaking at Black universities,
Yes.
because his whole thought process was like, if I'm like this, stupendous genius mastermind, I'm going to give them the time and the attention. And I thought that that was really amazing and profound. And also the fact that he was willing to definitely say that racism is a disease of the white man.
Mm-hmm.
Very advanced beyond his time. I don't think that people give him enough props for, in addition to being the scientific, person who changed the world, like, he also had very radical and humane ideas on how to treat people with more melanin. So kudos to you, Albert Einstein. Thanks for being dope.
Absolutely, yeah. And if you want a good book, Einstein and the Rabbi by Naomi Levy. She's another amazing rabbi that I follow. She's out in California, and her organization is called Nashuva. But she wrote this book called Albert Einstein and the Rabbi. And it's all about finding your soul, your inner soul. And she talks about this letter that she found of Einstein's. And it's just really an amazing book. If you really want to learn how to connect with your inner self and your inner power, that's like a really non-Buddha way to look into it. It's really cool. So, and I mean, anyone can read it, but it's really amazing.
I'll have to check that out. I've never heard of that, but I'm always looking to grow. I think it should be something we all aim for,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Tia Maria, I'm so glad that you came on the show again.
I love talking to you.
do you have anything fun going on with the season of your podcast, or what do you kind of have in store, and how can we continue to support you and keep up with you?
I know. Can't you believe it? I'm actually 2 episodes away from season 3 ending. I can't believe I'm 3 seasons in already. It's so wild when it's going to be almost a year in August, I think, that I made that commitment to do 8 episodes per season. And now I'm 3 seasons in, and it's just been an amazing thing. So, I mean, if anyone has questions for you, Tia, if you need some consejos or you need to vent or listen to, just reach out to me on Instagram at Café y Consejos Podcast. And yeah, I'm always just a message away, really. I'm almost like attached to my phone. So, like, if I don't answer right away, it's probably because I'm busy doing something. But definitely, I'll always respond and just like, follow, share. Send me your questions because I'm definitely going to answer it some way or form in an episode, because that's a lot of my questions, a lot of my topics have been from people who said, hey, I'm going through this, help. So yeah, that's what I'm doing.
And yeah, let us know if behind the scenes I can help in any way, because I really enjoy your show. And something I want to ask you advice on as well before we wrap up is if you have any suggestions on whether yourself or another like medical professional you could recommend. Season 4 is going to be all about cannabis on our show, and I would love to have a medical professional just talk about some of the benefits of it, because I mean, like, you know what I mean? Like, people at dispensaries and all these other folk can definitely talk about it, but I think it's
Right.
important to also have like people who have, like you said, like both that knowledge, both of the medical and the science related things, but also how like these plants might just help.
Oh my goodness. Girl, you talking to her, because not only am I the nurse, I am also a cannabis patient. And that is one of my things that I advocate a lot of. So yeah, I mean, I can definitely give you more. Cannabis is a God-given plant and herb for so many things. And I can tell you my story as a patient, that it changed my life in such a positive way. For me as a nurse, I was so scientifically trained that cannabis was not a good drug, right?
Mhm.
But as a patient, I came to know it as I would rather smoke a joint than take some Tylenol for a headache, right? And it started out, I was out at a concert with some friends. And to give a little background, I have lupus and rheumatoid arthritis. So I'm in a lot of pain all the time. And this is not to, anyone to say that, not to tell anyone that it's a cure all, but it helped me. My friend, I was worried because it was a 5-hour music festival. I was worried I wasn't going to make it through the entire show. And my friend was like, you know what? She's from Vermont. She's like, I grow my own weed, just smoke some. It's like, she had to teach me how to do it because I'm like, I've never done this. I don't know what to do. So she's like, this is how you do it. So you just inhale. She's like, trust me, you're going to be okay. And if you feel in more pain, then I'll give you some more. And I lasted, not only did I last the entire show on my 2 feet, dancing, enjoying the show, I still had energy and was pain free for the rest of the night to continue and like party afterwards with my friends. And that was when I first experienced the positive power of cannabis. And from then on, I started doing my own research. I started asking questions. I found a doctor in my state at that time, in the state of New Jersey, which just now decriminalized it. I'm so excited for that. I found a doctor in my area who prescribed it. And I just started taking classes and started researching and reading more books. And I'm going to go through my books and give you a list, send you a list of the books that I've read and used in my research. But yeah, and ever since then, I've just been making my own medicine. I've been off steroids. I used to take like chemo medications to help me. I don't do that anymore. It literally gave me my life back. It's really an amazing thing. And CBD is even more amazing because you don't have that whole psychoactive effect, and it has all these other positive things. So cannabis is an amazing, amazing plant. And it sucks that it has such a bad rap with this whole. I think it started with the reefer craze, crazy, and it's not just a really good medicine, but it really is spiritual thing too. It really does take you there if you know how to use it and study it, and you can use it in meditation. Sometimes I use it in meditation, and it helps me a lot. My anxiety is gone when I'm on CBD. I'm so chill because I'm Puerto Rican. Like you piss me off, I go from 0 to 10 and quick. Okay, like it's really chilled me out, and it really did give my life back. I started losing weight again. I started working out again. Yeah, I can go on and on and on about the positive effects of cannabis, but I could be here forever. It really is. It really is.
Oh, what a shame. Like, we're gonna have to have you on season 4.
Yeah, like I can give you
Yeah.
recipes for baños, lotions, teas.
Oh my God,
Girl, I
yes.
got you.
Oh my God. Well, okay, one thing I can talk about this now because I will officially have it Friday. So by the time this airs on Monday, so I got a Levo oil infuser.
Oh, yes.
Okay, are you familiar? Yes.
Yes.
I'm so excited. Shout out to the company and for sending one over. They are a woman owned based company, which is amazing. They sent it to me. I will be posting some recipes and stuff that I will
Oh my
be
gosh.
with it. So yes, I'm super stoked about that. It's been kind of hush hush, but now I've officially gotten the information of like when I'm gonna get it. So it's all official. So
Yay! Oh my gosh, that's so exciting. I'm a little jealous because I've always wanted one, but I'm old school hippie. Like I just grind my stuff in the molcajete. Like I have my own little molcajete and I grind my weed and I make my own oils. But I bet you're going to love that thing. Yeah.
especially when like the cannabis industry, I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, it has all these amazing beneficial things. But one of the ugly things we have to talk about is how, it was made illegal by white
The
men
man.
and yeah, white men. And then so like, now it's like who's reaping the benefits? The people with capital, which traditionally are like white men, white people. So it is important to give back. It is important to, help highlight people who are doing the work to ensure that these people are getting time to shine as well because there's so many businesses, but as a whole, like that's a whole reason why I'm inspired to do this season as well. It's like they only make up 19% of the industry. And that's across the board, whether it's like, an indigenous person, an Afro-Latino individual, a Black person, Latin, Asian people too. It's a
Mm-hmm.
very small percentage. And I think that a lot of it comes from the fact that there is a lack of capital. People who really have, sometimes who have the knowledge, are people who unfortunately like have felonies or, were doing it before, it got cool and had to pay the consequences. And so,
That's right.
yeah. And so it's just one of those things that I'm really hoping this season I can have a lot of cool conversations and, I'll just have to bring you back. What a shame.
Yeah. Hey, I'll be happy to. There is also a guy in New Jersey. He's also an advocate, and his name is NJ Weedman. And he has, it's in Trenton, New Jersey. He has it's like a deli shop, like a restaurant type of place. But he also advocates. He was advocating for the decriminalization in New Jersey. So if you want to reach out to him, Google him on Instagram. It's NJ Weedman. He would probably be a really good person to pick his brain when it comes to the advocacy part. He's kind of like a local Jersey celeb and was a big piece and really vocal during the time when New Jersey was trying to make it legal.
I will definitely keep that in mind and reach out.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Tia Maria, thank you again for being on the show. Where can everyone find you to listen to the podcast?
So you can actually find me now anywhere you can hear podcasts. There's Apple, Google, Anchor, Spotify, iHeartRadio, TuneIn. It's all over the place now. And you can reach me on Instagram at Café y Consejos Podcast and email Café y Consejos Podcast at gmail.com. So don't be afraid. My arms are open to you. Come to you, Tia. I'm here.
Well, thank you again for listening, everyone. And I will be back soon with fun stories. Bye.
Yeah.